WW7N testing.
Good evening. This is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net on the 08 machine. I'm Dave, KD7CYM. The Western Washington Amateur Television Society is a group of amateur radio enthusiasts that take to the airways with fast scan television. We have a repeater located up on Cougar Mountain. We transmit on 70 centimeters. It's a crossband repeater and spits out images of 1.2 gigahertz. Also, if you want to find out more about the Western Washington Amateur Television Society, Google WW7ATS. That's Google WW7ATS. That'll take you to our homepage. There you'll find the exact frequencies we transmit and receive on, a little background on our organization. Also on the front page, you'll find a link that will take you to YouTube, where we stream our nets held Saturdays and Wednesdays between 8 and 9 o'clock. Also, we'd like to thank the SeaTac Repeater Association for letting us use WW7ATS repeater 147.08 with a specific tone of 103.5. That's the tone of 103.5 for this particular net. So on behalf of the Western Washington Amateur Television Society, this is Dave, KD7CYM. I'll pause in case anybody needs emergency traffic or needs to make a contact before our net gets fully underway. This is Dave, KD7CYM. Hearing none, again, welcome to the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net. Signed in by video link already is Ron, KD7QKU, Bob, K9PQ, Jim, N7QO, James, WU7N, myself, Dave, KD7CYM. Is there anybody else who would like to check into the net this evening? None. Let's go up to Ron, KD7QKU in Tacoma.
Thank you very much, Dave. Good evening to everyone. Ron, KD7QKU here. Well, I guess as we were just saying a second ago, the big excitement this evening or late afternoon was somebody tried to assassinate Trump at a rally in, was it, I guess it was Pennsylvania, was that where it was? Something like that. Jim's nodding up and down. So anyway, that's too bad. Our society does it. I guess in a way I'm almost surprised somebody hasn't tried to kill him before now. But I'm not surprised that somebody tried to kill him, I guess. Well, anyway. What did I do? I don't do much anymore, you know. I mean, pretty much hunkered down in the house. It was hot there for so long. I hadn't driven the pickup for about 2 weeks. I figured I better drive it before the battery went dead in it. So I went out and fired it up yesterday and decided to go for a little ride. So I went down towards the zoo and aquarium down here in the park. I can't say what it is. I want to say desperation, but that's not it. But anyway, to see how the roses, they have a beautiful big rose garden. Oh man, they're in full bloom. We've been going to go down there and walk around, maybe take some pictures, but it's so hot. We haven't done it. So then there's another little road you can take to the right. Doesn't look like it's paved, but it's narrow. And it leads you down to this little parking lot. There's a path there, a trail. They built this beautiful overpass over the, I don't know if they still call it Pearl Street down there by the ferry. It's a beautiful metal overpass, and it goes over. You can walk all the way across it. It's Jamie Christmas. I would say it's almost the path, almost a mile long, and you're kind of behind and above the marina, and the marina down there. The yacht club has a big restaurant and everything, and then you come down on the other side. And then you can walk out to Dunes Park. It's a long walk. I've done it, and it's a long walk. My tongue was hanging out when I got back, that's for sure. But I didn't do it yesterday. I'd only been there once, and I wanted to make sure I could find the way. In case every now and then, Joanne's sister and brother-in-law and ourselves get together for a picnic lunch, and we take our lawn chairs, and we've been going different places. So I was exploring that as maybe a place to go. We could either go to the Rose Garden, or we could actually walk up on that bridge and you see the ferry, you see the water, you see all the boats, and you're up in the air. It's a really nice view from there. So we'll see what happens. And then after that, you have to go around this roundabout to go to any place there. There's a big roundabout. So then I drove around the roundabout and I went down to the boat ramp. There's a big boat ramp. And I always wondered what they charged, but I don't know. So I went down there. I needed to, let the battery charge up and keep the truck running. So I drove down. It's $15 to launch your boat down there. Then I came back, went around the roundabout again, and then I went down toward the ferry terminal. And then to the left of the ferry terminal is Anthony's Homeport Restaurant, and they have a big outside deck. And there's a lot of parking there, and a lot of people were out on the deck. It was probably about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then I drove around behind there, and there's another marina and a little restaurant, and then there's a beautiful concrete sidewalk that goes up to Owens Beach from there. And it's in the shade of the cliff. So on a real hot day, you can walk up there. It's about a mile up and about a mile back. It's a good walk. It's almost more than I would want to do right now. I could do it one way, but I don't know if I could come back. I mean, I'd be really tired when I came back. So I turned around the parking lot then and came home. So that was my afternoon yesterday. Back to net KD7QK.
QKU. Let's go to Bob, K9PQ in Bothell.
Okay, well, good evening, everybody. Yeah, that sounds like a nice little drive there, Ron. I get out and about. I have not done that in a while. I've been sticking around home more. Sticking around with the air conditioning, I have to admit. It actually didn't get that hot today. It wasn't bad. But my condo just traps the heat, and if I don't use AC, it's unbearable. I don't sleep well, and it's just not good. So I just leave it running, if the morning's cool enough, like this morning, I did have the windows open and sliding door open for a while, get some fresh air in. But I've been watching the air quality report, and it's a little bit better, but it's been not great lately. With this heat dome that we had, it kind of trapped the air, and it was getting to be, not dangerous at all, but just kind of unpleasant. It had an unpleasant smell to it, and the air quality index was sort of on the high side of fair, and even into whatever the next one is after fair. I've forgotten at the moment, but it's the stage where if you have any sort of sensitivities, you might start getting bothered by the air quality. So yeah, it's better today though. It's a bit better today, and hopefully it's going to continue to get better, but we'll see. What else? Well, not a whole lot for me going on, so I'll just send it back, and we'll see what others have to say. K9PQ.
Thanks for that. Let's go to Jim, N7QO in Covington.
N7QO, thank you, Dave. Good evening, everyone. Ron, talking about a long walk, I'll bet in the warm weather in particular, I'll bet your tongue is hanging out. It would be nice if our temperature would be in a certain range like all of the time. One of the things which I truly like about the climate here is that it frequently is that way, but sometimes it's not. And this past week or so, it certainly has been outside the norms. But I've got 85 at the house right now. Nice clear day. There has been a bit of a breeze today, but I've been pretty pleased with the weather. I don't know about the plants. The plants need water because of all the bright sunshine and the warmth. And then if I give them water, I mean, stuff is going to grow. So I don't know. Do I kind of let them die of thirst or what? I don't know. And Anthony's, yeah. It seems to me that I've been there several times. Some friends of ours wanted to, seems like, have Thanksgiving together there. So several consecutive years we would go there for Thanksgiving. But those folks have since moved to Sequim, of all places. So up in the neck of the woods, not too far from Lee. But so anyway, haven't been there for a while. Bob, you mentioned some peculiar smell in the air. Yeah, you know, I've noticed that too around here. I think it's mostly pollen of some sort. And then I was wondering if it might be this one tree that's by my house that has, I don't know, it almost looks like Spanish moss, but it's got to be some kind of mold or fungus or something growing on this poor tree. But you know what? It's not, because I can drive around a little bit. I can walk around the neighborhood, and I still smell it out there. And then I can go somewhere else, like up toward Bellevue, and I still smell it up there from time to time. So I don't know, some strange odor, which I'm guessing is pollen, but no guarantees as to the accuracy of that. But everywhere I go, I see problems. People's vehicles turning colors because of whatever's in the air. It's probably getting into our water supply too. Hope it's not toxic, but every now and Jim, I was just thinking about every now and then they post some notices about don't let your dogs go into this or that creek because there's some sort of algae bloom and it could mess them up too. So I don't know. I guess wherever you live, there are little peculiarities, and the odor and the pollen seems to be one thing which I certainly notice around here. Back to you, Dave, and 7QO.
QO, thanks for that. Get a quick idea. This is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society Net. I'm Dave, KD7CYM. Well, let's go to James, WU7N in Northeast Bellevue.
This is James, WU7N Northeast Bellevue. Over on this side of the west, there seems to be a little flare on the ceiling, and over on this side, it's a little darker on the 1.2 gigahertz signal. But on the Jitsi screen I'm looking at, I get a very across the screen, across the ceiling. That's interesting. It's always fun too to take this right here and hold up the colors, which are carefully calibrated from my empty Hewlett-Packard ink cartridges, and see how they look different. Actually, they're not too different on Jitsi as opposed to what I'm seeing on 1.2 gigahertz, which is a rock-solid signal tonight, by the way. Super signal. So, well, this morning, I went up, drove up to Edmonds, and my nephew got married and up and had a kid. So tonight's question, what does that make me to that kid? I may have asked this question of the group before. I'm not sure exactly, so I don't want to mislead you. But if that's my nephew and he has a kid, then what am I to that nephew? So that was just a whole lot of fun. He's 1 year old, endless entertainment. They had a birthday cake, and the kid is old enough to start moving around and asking for food and stuff like that. So endless entertainment, and also saw people interesting. To someone, I mean, that I know from another family group that my other sister married. So that is a strange coincidence that happened there. So anyway, that was what I did with a pretty big hunk of my day. Traffic wasn't too bad getting up or coming down. A little warm. I went into the Costco at Redmond on the way home to buy a coffee treat. And it really wasn't even all that crowded at the Costco for a Saturday. It's kind of eerie. Also, tonight I'm doing an experiment in fan precession, gyroscopic precession. I have a fan pointing at me, and it's rested on a paper shredder. And as the fan is turning, it's causing, gyroscopic precession. So it slowly turns away from me, and I notice all of a sudden the air that was blowing on me isn't blowing on me anymore, and I have to set it back. Another thing I wanted to ask the group tonight, I got two spam calls actually from Puget Sound Energy during our heat wave this past week, announcing, it was going to be hot, and would you please reduce energy use between 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. My neighbor got one that said, would you please reduce energy between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. And then after the heat wave was over, I got another spam call saying that I ranked number 15 in some groups of similar houses. And then said, you carbonaceous slime bucket, there were 15 people better than you. No, they didn't say that. It was a very positive message. But saying I ranked number 15 in a group of 100 homes, and I don't know who they're comparing me against, which I guess is better than being, number 16 in the group, but not as good as being number 14. So I was just wondering if anybody else got those spam calls from Puget Sound Energy. It's interesting. When I first got the first call, I thought they were going to turn my power off between 4 and 8, and it was just a nice way to prepare me for that. But the power did not go off. I did what they asked and tried to not use, all the heavy hitter appliances that are the big power suckers in my house. The electric stove and the electric dryer, and that's probably the biggest energy gobblers here in my house. So anyway, that's it from Northeast Bellevue. My name is James, WW7N, with the Western Washington Amateur Television Society. Let's turn it back to Dave, KD7ZYM.
7N, James, thanks for that. Well, this is Dave, KD7ZYM in Lake City. Well, currently I'm looking out of the window of my shack, and I see 3 small raccoons climbing up a tree that's about, I'd say 25 feet in the air, and they're just sort of mingling in there. It's a little Y area on the tree where it takes off to one trunk into 3 trunks, and they're just sort of held up in there like it's a little nest, but they look like they're little baby raccoons. There was a larger one that was with the group for a while, but it went further up the tree where I can no longer see it, so that was kind of interesting. Well, let's see. For today, domestic chores. I just love those, and did a little yard work, so that kept me going for most of the day. I've got 81 degrees and clear outside, but inside the shack I got 85 degrees. It's a little bit warm for that. And this afternoon I tuned into the Trump rally and the aftermath of that. It sort of took all the channels programming for the afternoon, you might say. Inexpensive programming for the networks. So otherwise they'd have to pay for the material that they run. So anyway, get on the bandwagon and see what was happening. So that's about it. This is Dave, KD7ZYM. So I'm going to turn it back up to Ron, KD7QKU.
Hey, thank you, Dave. KD7QKU here. Well, Dave, I have a hard trap if you want to borrow it, and you can trap your little friends there and take them down someplace, turn them loose. Maybe, what is the name of that park up there on the lake? That'd be a good place for them to go. Or you could get your wrist rocket out and practice. So anyway, well, James, I'm really glad to hear that you cut back on the energy consumption. So I was worried that I wouldn't have enough electricity to run my air conditioner. But thanks to you and 100,000 other people, it didn't fail. Oh, I guess I have a story. My son Mike sent me a text and a whole bunch of pictures of his boat. He had oiled all the teak and polished it, and he's got it all ready now to put it up for sale. So it's a big 26-foot boat. It's on a trailer. I mean, it's a monster on a trailer. And anyway, so he sent me pictures, and it looked really good. He had it running, and you could hear the motor and everything, and showed all the radios and everything inside the cab and everything. The cabin, I guess it would be called. So he said that I needed to call my son Ron, who lives over in Eastern Washington. He said he had a story. And I said, you don't want to tell me the story? No. He said, it would be better for him to tell you the story. Okay, I said. So probably about a half an hour later, I sent Ron a text, and I wanted to know how he was doing. And then I mentioned that sockeye season might be starting in Lake Wenatchee pretty soon. And it probably was about 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Let me drop it. His wife is down in Oregon. She went down. She has an uncle down there. He was 87 years old, lives on a farm. She went down there to visit all the relatives. And Ron stayed home by himself. So anyway, he called me, and I said, what's up? I hear you have a story. He said, yeah, I have a story. So he had decided he wanted to go for a motorcycle ride. He has a beautiful big street bike. It's a cruiser. It's not a Harley, but it's a Yamaha or something, but it's absolutely gorgeous. It's kind of a burnt orange color, and he bought it brand new. It's probably 3 or 4 years old now. So anyway, he decided he'd ride into Leavenworth. He lives in Plain, it's about 10, 12 miles. He rode into Leavenworth, and then he was thinking, well, I really need to renew my driver's license. Maybe I'll just ride on into Wenatchee and renew my driver's license. So he headed up Highway 2, and he had gone past the turnoff to go to Blewett Pass, and the traffic was pretty heavy. He said, I don't know what day it was. I guess I failed to find out what day it was that he did this. Anyway, as some of you may know, there's some traffic lights over there on Highway 2, and they have some orange lights that blink to warn you that the traffic lights are going to change so the traffic can slow down. Well, he said the traffic was running about 60 miles an hour, and he was in the left lane, and there were some trucks when he's in the right lane beside him, and he said that he knew they were approaching one of those lights, and he didn't see the orange lights. He saw the lights, but they weren't blinking orange, which indicates that the light's still green and it's not going to change. And then he said all of a sudden the car started stopping, and they started crashing into each other in front of him. He said he was probably going about 60 miles an hour and he said he thought he had plenty of distance between him and the car ahead of him. But he said as he applied the brakes and his motorcycle tires started sliding, he knew he wasn't going to stop. And he said he couldn't go to the left of the car because there's a big concrete barrier, and he couldn't go to the right because there was 2 big semi-trucks. And so he was trapped behind the car. He said he didn't want to hit it straight on and fly over the handlebars and go through the rear window or something. So he said at the last second he decided to lay it down on its right side. So he dumped the motorcycle on its right side, and he crashed into the back of the car. And he said he was laying there, and the motorcycle weighs about 800 pounds, and the hot exhaust pipe was on his leg, and he said he looks up at this guy in the semi, and he hollers, hey, help me, come down here and help me. So he said the guy leaped out of the truck. He was a great big guy, and then a couple other people, and came down and lifted the motorcycle off of him. And he said that it didn't hurt the motorcycle too bad, and it really didn't hardly hurt the car at all. And the lady came back out of the car, and she said she was really sorry she had to stop like that because she hit the car in front of her. And she said, I knew you were going to hit me. I could see you sliding, and I just knew you were going to hit me. She kept asking him, are you all right, all right? And he said, no, he was fine. The worst thing about it was he hurt his big toe in his right foot, and he doesn't know how he did that. He's got a little bit of a skinned up one. He had a t-shirt on and jeans and a helmet, but he had some riding boots on, he said. So, but anyway, he said that there's crash bars on the motorcycle, and that really helped. But very few marks on the car. He said it just he kind of hit the bumper, I guess. Anyway, they got off the side of the road, and he asked the lady if she wanted his insurance information. She said no, she didn't. She said her car was fine. She was worried about him. He said, well, he's really okay. So there's a park there. So he said he rode the motorcycle was rideable. He rode it over the park, and he bent the crash bar on the right side because it was interfering with the rear brake. And he said you really need the rear brake on that big motorcycle. And so anyway, he sat there, kind of recovered, stopped shaking, and he said it didn't. He has a little burn spot on his right knee, but it didn't tear his jeans. He had pictures of his knee, his toe, and his elbow, and they're just slightly scratched. It's just amazing. And like I say, there's a dent in the gas tank, and busted up his headlight and a bunch of stuff. And I think probably the handlebar where it hit the ground and maybe the brake or whatever's over there. Anyway, he said parts for his motorcycle was expensive. It probably cost him $1,000 to replace the parts that got damaged. He was disappointed in that. But he rode the motorcycle back home. He never did go into Wenatchee and get his driver's license renewed. He said the motorcycle front wheel wasn't bent or anything. He said it rode fine. So that was quite a story, I thought. So back to net KD7QKU.
Let's go to Bob, G9PQ.
Hi again. Before I forget, James, I don't know if you saw my note. Please check your PL tone. Your signal and only your signal, the repeater output is dropping for me. And I think it may be that you're on Tiger and I don't receive Tiger as well as Cougar, so just check that. Dogs and algae, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've never seen that warning before about, keeping your dogs out of the water, but yeah, that could be deadly for sure. I mean, I see the, warnings for, staying out of the water at public beaches on certain days because of algae, but yeah, some dogs just love to get in the water whenever they get a chance, and that could be terrible. I did not get anything. I don't have PSE. I'm on Snohomish PUD, and I did not get any calls. It's really interesting that they had that down to know exactly, what your usage was compared to others in whatever category they put you in, and so top 15%, nice. But I did have a little scare on what was the hottest day last Tuesday. That was my hottest day, at least. I lost power in the middle of the day for about 10 seconds, just long enough for me to think, oh my God, what am I going to do? And then it came back on again, so it was not a problem. But yeah, I was starting to come up with contingencies, okay, head to the mall for the day, sleep out on the deck maybe. I was trying to come up with all kinds of things to get through the day, but it turned out to be just fine. Just a bit of a scare. And Ron, that is quite a story, and I think the craziest thing to me is how he didn't get his upper body scraped up more with just wearing a t-shirt. I don't know how that is. You said he had a little bit of a scrape on his elbow. That's just crazy. When I rode regularly, I would, I'd usually, sometimes I'd have just a t-shirt, sometimes I'd just wear something light, a light jacket or something, but usually I tried to wear a little bit more protective stuff. But yeah, when it's so hot, I understand why you don't want to wear that much, but man, oh man. And the temperature range, I'm with you, Jim, on Yes, one thing I've always liked about living here is that it tends to be pretty moderate compared to a lot of places in the country. And the only place I know of better, well, maybe one is Dave reminded me of it because he's wearing a San Diego T-shirt. San Diego's pretty good, except for once or twice a year when they get the Santa Anas and it gets up over 100, which I actually experienced in San Diego once. But Hawaii, my brother lived in Hawaii for several years, and he said that is ideal. And you know, for like it was in the low 80s here today, and you know that's getting a bit warm, but it's low 80s there all the time. But it's got a nice breeze, and you get used to it. And he loved it. He said that was the ideal, and I could see getting used to that. I could see that. Of course, that's out of my price range, so I'm not giving too much thought to that. Okay, I'll send it back. K9PQ.
PQ and get an ID here again. This is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net on the 08 machine. Again, I'm Dave, KD7CYM. Let's go to Jim, N7QO.
N7QO, thank you, Dave. Well, Jim, you covered a lot there. Those printer cartridges, yeah, the red and the blue looks the same on both of my displays, but the yellow looks yellow on one of them. I don't remember for sure which, but on the other, okay, so it must be on a computer it looks yellow, but on the 1.2 gigahertz it looks green. Yeah, I see yellow on the computer. Oh, yeah. Okay, so then it's green on the 1.2 as I look at it. And I've noticed some color shift as well. I'm sure there's a rational explanation for that, but I've never bothered to question why. And let's see, I am getting unusually good pictures on the 1.2 tonight, so that's good. Let's see. What if your nephew has a kid? Well, I don't know. I think the default, at least in many parts of this country, would be to call them a cousin. And I don't know where one draws the line between whether or not they're kissing cousins, but I don't know. But that's my best guess anyway. The child of a nephew is a cousin of some sort. Got me. Or maybe that was just a brain teaser that you threw out there, and you really know the answer. We'll find out. Inquisitive people want to know. And let's see, those phone calls you got, that's got to be some kind of scam. I don't know. Why would they be doing, I don't get it. I don't know. I've never heard of anything like that. I do know that sometimes there are systems which enable the power companies to adjust the temperature of your thermostat, but I don't know anyone personally who is part of that system, anyone who authorized them to do that sort of thing. And certainly none of mine can be controlled remotely, so maybe you're more sophisticated than the average person out there. That would not surprise me, but I would definitely not put my thermostat on the web where some unsavory company can control it for you. That's my word of advice on that. Well, Ron's not there. And let's see, Bob, man, yeah, power failing at the most inopportune time. I'm just glad that was a very short interruption. I have seen short interruptions where if the compressor is running at the time, it can cause an interruption of your air conditioning system for a period of time until the pressures equalize, and then it would kick on. So if it happens again and the air doesn't come on right away, but the power does, just give it 15 minutes or so. And let's see. Well, I was just going to mention to Ron that, yeah, that fellow on the motorcycle sounded unusually lucky to me. That could have gone wrong in so many different ways. Boy, it's nice after the fact to know that you made the right decision. And his call to lay that motorcycle down was the way he did it was definitely the right decision. So kudos to him. And back to you, Dave, and 7QO.
M7QO. Let's go to James, WW7N.
First of all, let me ask Bob, are you hearing me any better now? Can you hear me now, as they would say on Sprint? I'll have to just program him in a different channel, because when I go back and forth, the channel is the Tiger Mountain PL Tone. For anyone else listening, we do our nets on Wednesdays and Saturdays with 103.5. Anyone's welcome to check in and check out or join the conversation. Just let Dave on Net Control know which you prefer. Well, let's see. The consensus answer on what am I to my nephew's son, I'll go ahead and put it in the digital side comments too, that I guess I am his great uncle and he is my grand nephew, is the consensus. And somebody with some genealogy background said I'm a half something, half great uncle or half grand nephew. I don't know. I guess it gets more and more specific. Maybe as you get farther away, you become a quarter, and then an eighth, and then a 16th, until finally you just fade away. I'm not sure. Until I just disappear. One thing I heard interesting when they were having the big heat wave in California was that a motorcyclist driving through Death Valley, I think it was, actually succumbed to the heat, which I would think with all of that air blowing over you, you would be okay. But I guess maybe it dehydrated him, maybe he didn't stay hydrated. I don't know what the details were on that, but that was kind of a surprising report. I'm glad, Ron, your friend sounds like he's got somebody watching over him. I've not heard very many happy stories to setting a bike on its side and riding the bike into another vehicle and coming out with little scratches all over you and a bruised toe. I'd say offhand, that bike did its job. A test pilot, he was asked once after he had ejected and the test aircraft exploded all over the countryside, he was asked, did he feel sorry about that? And he goes, no, that aircraft got what it deserved. It failed me. So I guess it depends on your perspectives and point of views on these things. But I would say that motorcycle deserves an award. Thank you for your comments on whether you got spam calls from Puget Sound Energy. I found that very interesting, and I was certainly willing to turn the power off, make sure that as much was off as possible. They did mention to me to tell Ron that he was a scum bucket, carbonaceous bucket of slime that didn't care about the planet Earth because he had his air conditioning on, but I didn't get a chance to call you. So they even know who I know, I think. You're not laughing, Ron. Anyhow, it's going to be an interesting world we live in. I had heard there was one plan that people who plug their electric cars in to recharge, if there's a power shortage, that they could end up sucking the power out of the cars and back into the power grid. and that's almost like, you know, when we were kids, there was supposed to be, there was a conspiracy theory that somehow the televisions produced had some kind of secret cameras in them that could look and watch everyone in the living room watching the TV and see their reactions. And we all said, well, that's ridiculous. Well, nowadays, we're all looking at screens that do have a little camera in them and probably do look at us. So anyway, world changes, isn't it? Doesn't it? Now I'm getting a double tone off the repeater. I'm not sure what that's going on there. So it looks like we got 20 more minutes here, so let me turn it back to Dave, our net control, KD7ZYM. This is Whiskey Uniform 7 November in Northeast Bellevue.
WW7N, again, this is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net on the 08 machine for an ID. This is Dave, KD7ZYM. Well, I guess we've learned the energy police are out there looking for us if you have air conditioning going. But I will go with Ron, who explored his area, walking a path to find out where he was going. But likewise, yesterday I got out in my car and turned on the air conditioning and drove around. It was much more comfortable. You don't get hot walking on a sweaty walking on a path. So anyway, I found that very delightful, especially, I guess I'm lucky with my air conditioning being about 10 years old, and it still operates quite efficiently, so I'm glad that happens and works. So anyway, I did do a good test, and I enjoyed the cool down. But look out for those energy police. They're everywhere. So I'm going to send it back up to Ron, KD7QKU.
7QKU here. Well, somebody mentioned something about protective clothes on a motorcycle. So he does have all kind of stuff. He even has heated clothes, but he also has a real airy vented jacket that he can wear when it's hot. You can almost see through it, but it's really tough and it has elbow protection and stuff. And I mentioned that to him. He said, yeah, no, he had it with him, but it was on the back of the motorcycle. It was too hot to wear. So anyway, yeah, I'm talking about electricity, you know, I mean, gee, many Christmas, they were asking us here in Pierce County to conserve electricity, run our dishwashers and run our wash machines and dryers and stuff at night instead of in the daytime. So what are they going to do if we all have electric cars and stuff? I mean, there just isn't enough electricity now. It's only going to get worse. So I don't know. And James I don't know where James went. He disappeared, but he sounds much better now than he did before Bob or somebody was right. So let's see. Oh, I'll make one more comment. My son's like 60 years old, or 61 or 2 actually. He's not quite eligible for Social Security yet, I don't think. But anyway, he's getting up there. And this is the second time in his life. He bought a brand new Honda Shadow, at least a 650, when he lived at home before he got married, and darned if he didn't lay that down and slide it into the oncoming lane and into the front of a car, but didn't do much damage to either one, again, or himself. But it was in the spring, and there was still sand on the street, and he was coming to an intersection where you were going to stop. And the same thing, he applied the brakes, and the motorcycle started sliding on the sand that was on the street. And he knew he was going to hit the car in front of him, so he swerved into the oncoming lane, laid the motorcycle down, and it was a Cadillac that he slid up to the front of and banged it, but it didn't do any damage to the Cadillac, but it did about the same amount of damage to that motorcycle. It was beautiful blue Shadow, metallic blue, and it was almost brand new. But he brought it home and set it on the patio, and he didn't ride it for about 2 months. It was kind of shook him up. I think his life flashed before his eyes. Anyway, so yeah, this is the second time that something like that has happened. But he's ridden an awful lot, and so I guess, you know, it's dangerous out there on the road riding a motorcycle, no doubt about it. All right, I guess I don't have much more. Back to net, KD7QKU.
KD7QKU. Let's go on to Bob, K9PQ.
Well, I've got a few notes here, but I'll start with my own motorcycle story. I don't remember if I've told this to you guys before. This was many years ago. I was riding out to somewhere around Squim, I think it was, for a party. Somebody was having a birthday party or something out there, and I was riding my motorcycle. And it was a very long, straight stretch of a two-lane road at night, and we're dusk, late in the day. So I was riding along, and I see coming from the other direction, a car come out to pass a slower car. And I was going pretty fast, and I thought, okay, I need to make a decision here because I think he'll be back in time, but I want to be safe, so I either should slow down or I can just move off to there was a very wide, safe shoulder to drive on, and I decided I didn't want to slow down, so I just went off onto the shoulder, and that saved my life because right after that car pulled back into its lane, there was another car behind it that pulled out into my lane, and I would have been head-on right into it, going 60 in each direction. And so I'm here to tell the story because I didn't want to slow down, and I went over onto the shoulder. Just funny things that happen, you just never know. What else did I have? The peel on memory. I've been hit by that with I can't remember if it was PL. I forget what it was, but yeah, I've been hit with that, James, where I change the channel and change it back, and it doesn't keep my changes that I made. It goes back to what the memory was, and I've been hit. Not lately, but I've been hit with that one. What else do I have? The color shift on the repeater. That's been there for many, many years, and I have no idea. I don't think it should be there, but I don't know why. And I've mentioned it once or twice, and I don't think we've ever really found a reason. But so I monitor the signal coming out of my Grand Stream. With a video player called VLC that actually takes the stream just the same way the repeater takes the stream. It takes the stream that I'm sending out, and so I know I'm putting a good, natural color out, but by the time it gets through the repeater, it does get shifted a little bit, more to the red generally. And what else? Jim, I thought that was pretty funny that you think it's a scam. I don't think so. I think it is interesting, and almost like an invasion of privacy, how much they know about your usage. How much detail they have about your usage. But they haven't gotten to the point yet where they know exactly what you're using. At least I don't think so. I thought it was interesting about the electric cars thing, where they could actually suck energy out of the cars to power the grid. That will be quite a day if that day comes. And as far as electric vehicles, I don't know. I honestly don't know what the state of electric vehicles are today. I know prices have come down. People seem to have cooled off on electric vehicles, but that is a real concern. If we really have this electrical vehicle revolution, we're going to have to beef up the power grid a lot, and it's not an easy thing. There's no easy solution to that, and there's probably going to be some dirty sources of energy producing that electricity for those nice clean cars. But we'll just have to see how that plays out. Okay, I think that's good for now. The grandnephew, great uncle. That's the way I've always heard it as well. Not so much the grandnephew and grandnephew, grandniece, but when I was young, I had great uncles and great aunts, and so I remember that very well. And now I am a great uncle, so there we go. Okay, back to net, K9PQ.
K9PQ, ID time again. This is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society Net. I'm Dave, KD7CYM. Let's go to Jim, N7QO in Covington.
N7QO, thank you, Dave. Well, Jim, another thing you mentioned is that on the 1.2, there was a difference in light intensity between your left side and your right side, which is it's not pronounced all that well on the computer. Well, I agree with that. It is significant looking at it on the computer, but I could tell there's a difference looking on the computer. Not nearly as dramatic as it is on the 1.2, but it's very evident on the 1.2. And let's see. Oh, also Death Valley, man. I'll tell you what. You could be cruising down the road with all this air blowing over you, but if it's 100-degree air or 120-degree air, it's almost like being in a hairdryer or something. It's yeah, and that dry air can dehydrate you very quickly. I learned that when I was in Phoenix. I was in Phoenix for 3 summers. Kind of interesting. The first summer I drove around with the air conditioning on maximum, and I was never comfortable. Second summer, there were days that I would turn the air conditioning down to less than maximum. And then the third summer, there were days that I'd turn the air off and roll the windows down. So I acclimated to that rather quickly. But I realized very quickly that you could be perspiring rather significantly and not be aware of it because the perspiration is evaporating so quickly from your body. And I have not heard about that motorcyclist who died in Death Valley, but I'll bet that was probably a dehydration matter. You just kind of keep going until you feel dizzy and pass out pretty bad. I know when I was in Phoenix, you had to drink more than you thought you should. You were not thirsty, but you really needed to keep drinking because the perspiration doesn't let you know that you're losing water from your body. So that's probably what happened there. And well, Bob, electric vehicles. Yeah, I have similar feelings. I think what they need to do is not only establish more charging stations, but they need to fix the grid first. Surely there are improvements which could be made there, and I think that's really important to do. It's like we're setting ourselves up to fail if we go try to switch over to a system, an infrastructure which is unable to deal with it. That's my 2 cents. And I recently saw a survey on television. What they were asking is 1 out of every 4 people who purchased this regretted it. And the answer to the survey was an electric car. I guess getting an electric car definitely is a change in lifestyle. You have to kind of adjust things a little bit, but But then there's the difference of getting one that's all electric or getting one that's a hybrid or getting one that's a plug-in hybrid. I kind of like the idea of a plug-in hybrid, but man, those things are just way too expensive. Last car I bought 35 years ago, I paid like $3,000 some dollars for it, and I'm still driving it, and I just can't see spending a whole bunch of bucks on an electric vehicle, or for that matter, even a gasoline-powered vehicle. But wow, they're pricey, and I'm not sure the price is going to come down dramatically. Oh well, we'll see what happens. We've got a few years to go, not many, before we have to switch over, like it or not. Back to you, Dave, N7QO.
N7QO, let's go to James, WW7N.
Looks like the digital side on me is frozen up, but I guess you can still hear me on the audio side. Well, Jim, last time I was in Arizona, I drank way more than I felt I should or needed to, as well as drinking more water also. So anyway, well, it's been a great net tonight. Oh wait, I see Jim's mouth moving now, but I don't know if he's talking. I'll go ahead and release the repeater audio side. Well, anyway, it's just a few minutes left. I may not be joining the afternet, but it's been a great net tonight. Thank you all for your participation. And with events, we all probably should learn how to pray. I'll have to look that up on the internet and see how you do that. So anyway, I will say goodnight and leave it to Dave to wrap the net up for tonight. Dave, go ahead. This is James, WU7N in Northeast Bellevue.
WU7N, thanks for that. This is Dave, KD7ZYM. Well, being an electric car owner for 10 years, I've really enjoyed it, and it's served me well for my use in the city, so that's been good. The greatest problem now that's occurring is that copper thieves are going out to the charging stations and cutting off the 20-foot cables that cost about $250 in a charging station, and they're lucky if they can get $8 to $7 for the copper that's in those wires. So it's very interesting to see what's happening there. But that's the downside of it. I've always charged at home. I've never charged anywhere else, and it's served me well. And let's see what else. I was talking about motorcycles. At one time I had a Vespa scooter, which not confused with being a motorcycle, but it was just and in college it was a get around town type of vehicle that got me to and from. And you know, they're very economy wise and for college kids fantastic. But the thing that I ran into was so many college kids would wear flip-flops or just really cheesy tennis shoes. And you still need every once in a while when you go to stop to drag a foot a little bit, but I always had full-size shoes, and so I didn't get involved with that type of problem. And it's time to put a plug on the net. This is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net. I'd like to thank the SeaTac Repeaters Association for letting us use WW7ATS repeater 147.08 with a tone of 103.5 for our voice transmissions during our nets held on Wednesdays and Saturdays. So again, on behalf of the Western Washington Amateur Television Society, this is Dave, KD7ZYM, signing off at 9 o'clock. Good evening all.